Hey Wargamers, after more than 20 years of being in the Tau Empire Codex, the Kroot finally have a new unit entry in the Codex. That's right, the Kroot Farstalkers, the new kill team version of Kroot, are making the jump over to mainline 40k, and it is pretty darn exciting. Of course, these are awesome models, but will the data slate live up to how cool those models look? Let's find out. Alright, so the Kroot Farstalkers come in a unit of 10. That's right, you don't get the Kroot Hounds embedded in the unit like in the kill team. They are still separate Kroot Hounds. So we're just looking at the infantry models here. Of those 10 models, you have 9 Farstalkers, which have the exact same unit profile as typical Kroot Carnivores. And then you have 1 Kroot Killbroker, which isn't a Shaper, right? A Shaper is its own thing still. But this is kind of like a Sergeant Kroot Farstalker. And so he has +1 attack, +1 leadership, kind of intermediate between a Farstalker or a Carnivore and an actual Shaper. And that's kind of cool. I wish that was something that would transition to Carnivore squads as well, as having that Sergeant character, so that they're a little less dependent on the Shaper. It blurs the lines. It messes with the way things have traditionally worked for the Kroot, but I think this is a step in the right direction. I like that. The Killbroker has a pistol, a rifle, a ritual blade, and quill grenades. The Farstalkers, just like Carnivores, have a pistol, a rifle, and quill grenades as well. So nothing too notable just in the profile here, with the exception of that new Killbroker entry as opposed to a Shaper, or just Kroot. But they do have some really cool abilities. So they have Ambush Predators that works exactly the same way as it does for normal Kroot. And they also have Stealthy Hunters, same way for normal Kroot. So those two things are the same. The thing that is interesting here, though, is this new rule, Bounty Hunters. And this, of course, fits into their fluff of being, bounty hunters. And so it says, at the start of the first battle round, select one enemy unit to be this unit's bounty. Each time a model in this unit makes an attack against its bounty, you can reroll the hit roll. So that's pretty darn cool, right? Like, you're getting full rerolls against to hit against one enemy unit. Would it be better if it was all enemy units? Of course, but this is thematic, this is fun, this is useful, especially for this unit. So I think that rule alone makes this unit work. It makes them attractive. Without this, I don't think they would have much appeal, if any. And so having this Bounty Hunters rule is really something that's essential to the Farstalkers as a unit entry. For keywords, they have the typical Empire Kroot, Infantry, Auxiliary, and then Kroot Farstalkers as a keyword. Note, they don't have Kroot Carnivores, they don't have Shaper, they don't have Kroot Hounds or Kroot Ox, anything like that. And so they are an elite choice that does not benefit from the Kroot Pack Special Rule. The Kroot Pack Special Rule is the thing where if you bring a unit of Carnivores, you can bring a Shaper for free, not using up a Force Organization slot. And that, I think, is one of the biggest challenges to this data slate. I hope that Kroot Pack gets FAQ'd or changed in some way that allows you to bring Farstalkers in as part of that, because right now, as they're worded, they compete with some of the most important units in the Codex, namely Crisis Suits. So as an elite slot pick, you're going to be hard-pressed to bring a bunch of these, right? Maybe one or two. You're not going to be bringing a ton of them, unless that's your jam, unless that's the theme of your army. If you're going all Kroot all the time, baby, finally you have another unit to take. So I think that's a really, really great choice if you're going for a Dalith army that's all Kroot or something like that. But if you're looking for a more mainline army, being an elite slot that doesn't benefit from Kroot Pack is gonna be it's gonna be a little bit of an obstacle, right? They are 20 points more expensive than normal Carnivores, being 80 points as opposed to 60 points for a unit of 10 of standard Carnivores. But I think it's worth it, right? Bounty Hunters, again, that's just built-in value right there. And then they have a couple war gear options I will talk about next year that really make them have some interesting tactical play as well. So I think that for 80 points, that's a fine point value for them. Would it be better if it was cheaper? Of course. But 80 points, I think, I think that's reasonable for what you get here. Of course, the unit is capped at 10 models, right? That's set based on the size of the actual kit, as well as kind of it being an elite choice. You wouldn't expect it to be a really large unit, but I would think that I would rather have a unit of 20 models here as opposed to 10. And the reason for that is that they seem to be positioned in a way that you could really do some damage with them. I am concerned that being only 10 models, that they don't have the output per model to really be as useful as you would hope they would be. And at 20 models, you can make up for some of that inefficiency in terms of, just bulk output. So I would really like to see this be a 10 to 20 model unit in a future version of the Codex or something like that. That's a long ways away. But I think that would be cool, right? If you could have 20 of these guys, you'd be able to leverage some of the other interactions that they have with the Codex more effectively than with just the 10-man version that we have in the data slate today. So, that's a pipe dream that's off in the future, but still, at 10 models, I think they do have a place. It just would be more clear with a larger potential unit size. All right, let's talk about the war gear. So the Kill Broker comes equipped with the Pulse Rifle and a Ritual Blade. You can switch that out for a Kroot Rifle or a Pulse Carbine. I don't know why you would do that. The Pulse Rifle is better than the Kroot Rifle in shooting, and the Ritual Blade is better than the Kroot Rifle in close combat. So the Ritual Blade gives you +1 strength and -1 AP, whereas the Kroot Rifle just gives you -1 AP. So seems like you would just leave this guy as is. 2 of the Kroot Farstalkers can replace their Kroot Rifles with Scatterguns, which are basically the carbine version of a Kroot Rifle. So they are Assault 2, Range 18, Strength 4, 1 damage. This and most of the other war gear options are free upgrades. So this is the type of thing where you could go either way. I think here it's fine to take the Scattergun because you'll have that little bit extra range with 2 shots as opposed to 1. Right, with the Kroot Rifle being rapid fire 1 at 24 inches, you get 2 shots at 12. 2 shots at 12-inch range. Here, you're getting 2 shots at 18-inch range. So I think that's useful given where this unit is likely to be deployed. And the fact that you have to lose the -1 AP in close combat probably isn't as big of a deal. It's context dependent, of course, right? If you're playing against Xenos, then that does matter. But if you're playing against anything with Armor of Contempt or Void Armor, you're not going to get that -1 AP anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So, you might as well go for the carbine in this instance. So yeah, Scattergun, free upgrade. It's kind of, that's one of the things where I could go either way on it, but I think the Scattergun probably has a place. One of your Farstalkers can switch out their Kroot Rifle for a Kroot Hunting Rifle, and I think this is really the thing that you're bringing the unit for in some cases. So the Hunting Rifle, range 36, heavy 1, strength 6, -1 AP, 2 damage, and then it's a sniper rifle, so it ignores Lookout Sir, and if it rolls a unmodified 6 to wound, it does a mortal wound. So both of those things, it's just a good profile. The fact that it's a sniper weapon is cool and thematic. It fits with the way Kroot have operated in past, 6th, 7th edition, where they had the ability to take sniper rounds. I'm happy to see this in this unit. I think this really offers some additional utility beyond what you would see with a Kroot Carnivore squad. This weapon alone, I think, really, really gives them a clear niche beyond just Kroot that have, have Bounty Hunter or have some of these other weapon options. So this is basically an auto-include for me. It's a free upgrade. It's heavy 1. There's ways to deal with that that we'll talk about in a moment. But I think it's just a really strong selection for this unit. And the fact that it's free makes it seem like an auto-include to me. You can switch out a different Kroot's rifle for the Accelerator Bow. And this is another free upgrade, something I think is, probably worth picking up. So range 18, assault 1, strength 6, -2 AP, 1 damage, and then you re-roll the wound roll on that. So that's useful, right? Seems like it offers a little bit more utility. Being able to re-roll the wound at least makes up for it being 1 shot instead of 2. So I think that's worth it. Then we go to you can have one Farstalker replaced his Kroot rifle with either the Dvorgite Skinner or the Londaxi Tribalist. And these are the two weapon choices you have to pay for. They're both 10 points, but you can only take one. And because you have to pay for them, I think the value isn't quite there. If these were free, I would say go for it, but the fact that you have to pay for it, it makes me a little uneasy. So the Skinner is basically a flamer, and the Tribalist is a range 18, heavy 3, strength 7, -1 AP, 1 damage weapon that gets boosted to damage 3 against vehicles. But how often are they going to be in a position to be firing at vehicles is one question. But overall, it seems like for 10 points, I don't know if I really want to invest in either of these things that don't have a clear application in the way that I imagine using this unit. Then to round out the war gear options, you can take Pekra, which is a Kroot bird, a Kroot hawk, which is cool. And Pekra allows you to ignore cover. And this is the other major thing. The hunting rifle is clearly a good weapon choice. Pekra is, I think, a really important factor given how you are likely to be deploying and utilizing this unit. So I see them very, very well positioned to take out scout units, right, to offer midboard pressure either through volume of fire, through Kroot rifles, or through some of the specialist weapon fire, and being able to ignore cover in all of that shooting because of Pekra is really useful. Because again, a lot of these units are going to be, in terrain, in ruins, and especially midboard. And so you're going to want to be able to ignore their cover. So Pekra seems awesome. I would pay 10 points for Pekra because it amplifies the output of the entire unit. I think the value is there compared to just taking basically just taking a flamer. I don't think a flamer is worth 10 points, but freaking cool bird, yeah, that's worth 10 points to me. All right, and there it is. There's the Pekra in this model here. So the question is, how does this data slate fit in the codex? Is it redundant? Does it have a place? How are we going to use it? Well, to begin with, one of the things that is interesting about this unit is that it has a lot of independence, right? Having Pekra, having Bounty Hunter special role means that it's not totally dependent on other units or warlord traits or stratagems to be effective. So I think it stands alone fairly well, which is good. But it also does have, the standard role of being able to be buffed by Shapers, being able to be buffed by Ethereals. So the Shaper offering stronger leadership through the wisest of its kind or whatever its special rule is, right? Like that's still useful because the kill broker doesn't have the same leadership. So that's good to still have a Shaper around. Plus, the Shaper has the Shaper commands, which can allow them to re-roll ones to hit against units other than their bounty. So that's going to be useful, especially if you are bringing that sniper rifle and you're shooting against a unit that wasn't your bounty, right? Like being able to get that reroll is going to be super useful there. So having a Shaper nearby is going to be good for that. And also you could give your Shaper the Nomadic Hunter Warlord trait that allows them to count as stationary. So you can overcome that unit having heavy weapons and have them still move without penalty. So I think having a Shaper nearby these guys still makes sense. If you don't have the Shaper, they're still going to have a role, but you're going to get the most out of them if you have that Shaper nearby. You can also have an Ethereal nearby. Power of the Tides allows them to reroll their wounds, and that's super cool. I don't know if it's the best use of Ethereal, but in the games where I've messed around with having multiple Ethereals and having one of them hang out with a unit Kroot, Power of Tides is always fun and can really be a massive force multiplier for that unit. So, if you're going to have multiple Ethereals, if you're going to do something like that, these guys are not going to be unhappy benefiting from rerolls to wound. Additionally, the fact that they have the Bounty Hunter special role, allowing them to reroll their hits against a target, is useful in both shooting, and combat. And that means that you can leverage their standard Kroot buffs more effectively than if they, didn't have that, right? Like being able to reroll their hits is going to work out very well when you use the stratagem A Trap Well Laid. That gives them +1 attack and heroic intervention. Being able to reroll your hits against a target is just gonna is gonna be pretty good if you also have +1 attack. And being able to heroically intervene, again allows them to be more likely to actually utilize that, right? To get into combat is what I'm trying to say. You can use a Grisly Feast stratagem to give them a 5-up Feel No Pain. And again, if they're able to reroll their hits, they're going to be more likely to kill something and therefore more likely to be able to use this stratagem. So I think that they fit in a nice way such that they have much of the trappings of a standard Kroot carnivore squad, but the things that make them different are all pushing them in a direction to leverage those existing structures, those existing interactions more effectively. They also interact nicely with Kalyan and Manka if you put them in Dallas Sept, right? Dallas Sept allows them to benefit from your philosophy of war. And so if you give them Manka, they're going to be able to move and shoot more independently. That's going to be useful for them, especially if they have heavy weapons. Then you don't have to have Nomadic Hunter, for example. Right, so that's a useful thing there. If you give them Kalyan, that's also cool too, right? Like being able to get extra hits on things like your sniper rifle is going to be useful. And so I think in a Dalith army and an all Kroot army, there's clearly a role for these guys, and one that you could do some pretty sneaky stuff. Is it going to be GT winning? Probably not, but it's I think middle of the road enough that you're going to see it. They're cool, they're fluffy, they're great models, they have value. They're not going to be talked about and then never seen again. So I would expect that they will show up in lists, at least in casual play, right? And probably in some tournaments with people trying to do some sneaky stuff. But yeah. I'm glad that they have rules. I guess that's all there is to say about it. I'm glad they have rules. I think their rules are cool. I think they're useful. And I look forward to them being offered as a standalone kit that I can buy because I'd like to have a couple of these in my army. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you going to be picking up a Farstalker Kindband for your 40k army or not? Either way, let's have a conversation about it. And as always, thanks for watching and happy wargaming. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. Good news, we have more of the Invasive Wargaming model back in stock, so if you're interested in picking one up, you didn't get one before or you want more, check out the links in the description below. Otherwise, I just want to say thanks again for watching, especially all the folks over on Patreon. This channel wouldn't happen without them, so thanks to Jack and Acker, Durza, Everett Keller, Robbie Goodwin, Jose Gomez, Drew Prattley, Michael Byrne, Zealous Brimstone, Scott Heater, Stephen Cowan, Jared Egler, and Shifty.